We will now begin our morning bell chant, which this morning is the 4 grounds of mindfulness found on page 20 of your chant book. Please feel free to read, follow, or chant along. Section 1. I heard these words of the Buddha one time when the Lord was staying in the town of Kamasa Dharma in the land of the Kuru people. The Lord addressed the bhikkhus. There is a path which can help beings realize purification, overcome anxiety and fear, end pain, distress, and grief, and attain the right practice. This is the path of dwelling in the 4 grounds of mindfulness. What are the 4 grounds of mindfulness? They are the 4 methods of observing body as body, feelings as feelings, mind as mind, and objects of mind as objects of mind. Section 2, body. What is the way to remain established in the awareness of body as body? When the practitioner walks, they know they are walking. When they stand, they know they are standing. When they sit, they know they are sitting. When they lie down, they know they are lying down. When they wake up, they know they are waking up. Awake or asleep, they know they are awake or asleep. Further, bhikkhus, when practicing awareness of the body, the practitioner is clearly aware of the positions and movements of the body, such as going out and coming in, bending down and standing up, extending limbs or drawing them in. When wearing the Sangati robe, carrying the alms bowl, walking, standing, lying, sitting, speaking, or being silent, they know the skillful way of being aware. Further, bhikkhus, a practitioner is aware of body as body. When breathing in, they know that they are breathing in, and breathing out, they know that they are breathing out. When breathing in a long breath, they know they are breathing in a long breath. When breathing out a long breath, they know they are breathing out a long breath. When breathing in, they are aware of their whole body. Breathing in, they are aware of the cessation of the activity of their body. Breathing in, they are aware of the cessation of the activity of their speech. Further, bhikkhus, a practitioner is aware of body as body. When feelings of bliss, joy, happiness, and equanimity arise during their concentration and saturate every part of their body, these feelings envelop the whole of their body, just as someone who puts on a very long robe which reaches from their head to their feet, and there is no part of the body which is not covered by this robe. So the practitioner with an equanimous mind envelops their whole body in understanding and leaves no part of the body untouched. Further, bhikkhus, a practitioner who is aware of the body knows very well that this body exists due to the interdependence of the parts of the body, from the top of the head to the soles of the feet. They see all the parts of the body, observe the elements which compose the parts of the body, and visualize the dispersion of these elements back to the earth. When they visualize it like this, they compare it with their own body. This body of mine will also undergo a transformation such as this. In the end, there is no way it can avoid this condition. This is how the practitioner is aware of body as body, both inside the body and outside the body, and establishes mindfulness in the body with recognition, insight, clarity, and realization. This is called being aware of body as body. Section 3, Feelings. What is the way to remain established in the awareness of feelings as feelings? When the practitioner has a pleasant feeling, they know immediately that they have a pleasant feeling. When they have an unpleasant feeling, they know immediately that they have an unpleasant feeling. When they have a neutral feeling, they know immediately that they have a neutral feeling. The same is true when the practitioner has a pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feeling in the body of the mind, of this world, not of this world, with desire, not associated with desire. This is how the practitioner is aware of feelings as feelings, both inside the feelings and outside the feelings, and establishes right mindfulness. If there are bhikkhus and bhikkhunis who meditate on feelings as feelings according to these instructions, then they are capable of dwelling in the meditation on feelings as feelings. Section 4, Mind. What is the way to remain established in the meditation on mind as mind? When the practitioner's mind is attached to something, they know it is attached to something. When the practitioner's mind is not attached, they know it is not attached. The same is true when the practitioner's mind hates something or is not hating, is confused or is not confused, is defiled or not defiled, is distracted or not distracted, has obstacles or has no obstacles, is tense or is not tense, is boundless or is bound, is concentrating or is not concentrating, is liberated or is not liberated. This is how the practitioner is aware of mind as mind, both inside the mind and outside the mind, and establishes mindfulness in the mind with recognition, insight, clarity, and realization, and that is called being aware of mind as mind. If bhikkhus or bhikkhunis meditate on mind as mind according to the details of these instructions, then they know how to dwell in the practice of observing mind as mind. Section 5, Objects of Mind. What is the way to remain established in the meditation on objects of mind as objects of mind? When the practitioner realizes that their eyes in contact with form give rise to an internal formation, then they know without any doubt that an internal formation is being formed. If there is no internal formation, they know without any doubt that there is no internal formation. If an internal formation which had not risen formally now arises, they know this. If an internal formation which had arisen formally now comes to an end and will not rise again, they know this. The same is true with all the other sense organs, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. If bhikkhus or bhikkhunis meditate on objects of mind as objects of mind according to these instructions, then they know how to dwell in the practice of observing objects of mind as objects of mind in the 6 realms of consciousness. Further, bhikkhus, when the practitioner is meditating on objects of mind as objects of mind, if they see sensual desire in themselves, they know without any doubt that sensual desire is there. If they see no sensual desire in themselves, they know without any doubt that no sensual desire is there. If a sensual desire which had not arisen formerly now arises, they know this without any doubt. If a sensual desire which had arisen formerly now comes to an end, they also know this without any doubt. The same is true of the four other obstacles: anger, torpor, agitation, and doubt. If bhikkhus or bhikkhunis meditate on objects of mind as objects of mind according to the details of these instructions, then they know how to dwell in the practice of observing objects of mind as objects of mind with regard to the five obstacles. Further, bhikkhus, when the practitioner is meditating on objects of mind as objects of mind, if they see in their mind the factor of awakening, mindfulness, they know without any doubt that mindfulness is there. When mindfulness is not present, they know without any doubt that mindfulness is not present. When mindfulness, which had formerly not been present, is now present, the practitioner also knows this without any doubt. When mindfulness has arisen and is still present, or not lost, does not decline but increases, the practitioner is also aware of all this. The same is true of all other factors of awakening: the investigation of dharmas, energy, joy, ease, concentration, and equanimity. This is how the practitioner is aware of objects of mind as objects of mind, both the inside of the object and the outside of the object, and establishes mindfulness in the object of mind with understanding, insight, clarity, and realization. And that is called being aware of objects of mind as objects of mind. If bhikkhus or bhikkhunis meditate on objects of mind as objects of mind according to these instructions, then they know how to dwell in the practice of meditating on objects of mind as objects of mind with regard to the seven factors of awakening. After the Lord Buddha had spoken, the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis who heard him teach were delighted and endeavored to carry out the practice. Thank you. We will now resume noble silence until the beginning of service.
At this time, I'd like to invite up our incense lighters. And if you'll join us on page 2 in chanting our incense lighting gatha. And together we say, in gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding, slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Good morning, everyone. It's really good to see you all. A couple of announcements before we start service. I don't know if I see any small children. Oh, I do. Hello. If you need to go downstairs, happy to take that time down there together. We do have an area downstairs for small children. So if you ever do bring your children to service, there's some toys down there and some books and an area for them to hang out. There's also water and cups downstairs. And I believe there's also some water at this end should you find that you need a little sip. Bathrooms are located just through those curtains. There's 2 there. There's also one downstairs if you need to use that. We ask that you refrain from walking across the front of the dais from the perspective that we've got folks listening online. Hi, everyone. And we want to make sure that we're not adding any disruptions for the service for them. Lastly, when we do engage in our chants, bring some energy, bring some life into the chants, and really read the words. Don't just say them because it's what we do, right? We tend to get locked into our repetitive pattern of just saying the same thing over and over again and really forgetting what it means, especially with something like the Heart Sutra, right? So at this time, we can go ahead and stand up and greet each other, saying good morning silently. On page 3 of your chant books, we will chant the 3 refuges. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to practice mindful breathing and smiling, looking deeply into things. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to offer joy to one person in the morning and to help relieve the grief of one person in the afternoon. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And just on the next page, we'll chant the Heart Sutra together. Go. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva of great compassion, from the deep practice of prajna, Paramita, perceived the emptiness of all five skandhas, and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight, no realm of consciousness. No ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance. No old age and death, nor extinction of them. No suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna, paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all delusive views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant fearless mantra, the utmost supreme mantra, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Namaha prajna paramita hridaya sutra.
Before you sit down, I traditionally, as a teacher in my lineage, offer three prostrations to the altar in honor of the teacher, the person who passed down these teachings to me, the very source of Buddha. So if you have a prostration practice, you can join me in doing this. Otherwise, if you can just wait until I'm done prostrating, then you can take a seat. Thank you. We're having some technical difficulties this morning. I'm hoping this will work, but we'll see. Oh, it's doing things. All right. I'll see if I can keep this alive, which means I may need to. Oh. Ready to go. Okay. It's really hard when you're looking at a screen with like a white mouse and a white background. We'll see if this works. Otherwise, we may need to see if we can figure this out. So, good morning, everybody. My name is Igye. That's my Dharma name here at the temple. I also have a Tibetan name, Lobsang Shodron, which means illuminating the lamp of Dharma. It means sharing the Dharma. And I really struggled with what I was going to talk about today. Since my last talk on January 12th, there's a lot of things that have been happening. A lot has gone on in a very short amount of time. It's only been 6 weeks. And there were a lot of things that I considered talking about. Fannie Lou Hamer is somebody who I considered discussing. Is anybody familiar with Fannie Lou Hamer? In 1967, she went to the Democratic National Convention and shared her experiences of what it was like to be a Black woman in Mississippi. And our president at the time, Lyndon B. Johnson, specifically moved the broadcast to announce the 9-month celebration of some other silly political thing, because he knew that if people saw her message, that they would get fired up and they would be upset and they would want change. And what had ended up happening is, though that decision at the time was unskillful, it ended up being the most skillful thing that he could have done, because then her talk got replayed more times than it would have had he not done that. And I really considered, in the face of what many of us are experiencing right now, what might the Buddha say? You know, you'll see the "What would Jesus do?" bumper stickers. And for me, it's always, okay, well, what would the Buddha do? Okay. Especially coming at it from a place of wisdom and compassion for all beings. Okay. And so I thought I'd start with the story of Daryl Davis. Does anybody know who Daryl Davis is? Cool. He's modern. He's still alive. He's not dead. So Daryl Davis is a musician and activist, originally born in Chicago, raised in Boston, had an experience with the Boy Scouts in a parade when he was about 10 years old, when all of a sudden rocks were thrown at him, and because his Cub Scout troop had asked him, "Can you carry the American flag in this parade?" And in this parade, he found that people on the sidelines, this was 1967, I believe, or 1964. That's right. My dates are probably going to be off. He was carrying this flag, and all of a sudden rocks were being thrown at him. And granted, he was one of 2 Black children at the school that he attended in his town in Boston, the suburbs of Boston. And he didn't understand why. He was like, why are people treating me like this? And that was the day that his parents had to sit down and have a talk with him about racism. And ever since then, he was really, inquisitive, like, but why? Why do they think this way? Note that even as a 10-year-old boy, it wasn't, how do I react in hate? How do I react in anger? How do I react in fear? It was never that. It was always with compassionate reasoning. But why? And if things are changeable, can this be changed too?
And so over his life, he ended up moving to Maryland, and being a jazz musician as he was, he played in, bars and places where lots of people congregate. There happened to be members of the KKK there. And they looked at him and they said, "Wow, you really play like this one artist that I know." And it was, some white guy, I can't remember his name, so please excuse me. And he said, "Yeah, that guy happened to learn from a guy I've learned from, the guy who really knew the blues and boogie woogie." And, the guy was like, "Well, I don't know about that, but you play like him and I really like it." And so over time, he saw this as an opportunity to engage, not in a conversation out of fear or anger or hatred, but out of respect and compassion, to understand why people think differently than him. And he took this so far as to engaging in a conversation with, is it called the Grand Master or the Grand Dragon of the KKK? And ended up sitting down and having conversations and becoming very good friends with this person. He actually got to the point where this man left the KKK, and same as influencing over 200 other members to leave as well. But he didn't do it through hate. He didn't do it through anger. And he didn't do it through fear. He did it through love. He did it through compassion. And he did it with wisdom. And so I thought that this might be appropriate to discuss something that we just chanted in our Heart Sutra. I'm keeping my mouse over here so this screen hopefully stays up. In our Heart Sutra, you'll hear the words, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, and no consciousness. And I'm going to give you some different words because, as you may know, all of these chants are translated from another language. And depending on what the mind of the translator had for those words can be different depending on who's translating them. So today I'm going to give you a different point of view as passed down through my teachers. And it's the first chapter of the Abhidharma. And the Abhidharma was taught by the Logic School. Okay, and the Logic School is one of the 4 schools that is studied in Tibetan Buddhism. And they introduced this 5 skandhas, right? Or as some people know them, the aggregates. And the way that I know it as the 5 heaps, okay? And these are this is the way that the Buddha categorized our experience of the world. Now, he could have just said mind and body. Why didn't he? Why did he go further than that? Okay. And so we have the 5 skandhas. And the words that I'm going to use are, as I said, slightly different. The first one we have is form. Okay. Form is the physical body and sensory objects. It's our experience of gross reality, right? This body. I can touch this microphone. I can experience the physical feeling of this bell. And this is the thing that convinces us of our reality. This physical body that we are existing in 24/7. The second of the 5 skandhas is feeling. And this is our capacity to experience pain, pleasure, or neutral feeling. And feeling never stops, right? It's a mental function that continues from moment to moment to moment to moment, okay? And it shapes our preferences and aversions. Then we have distinction, okay? Now, normally you might hear this as no thought. Today, we're translating it as no distinction. It means that we're able to tell something that's small, something that's big, a cat from a dog, okay? But again, feeling is something else. That is like and dislike, okay? Distinction is big, small, okay? And then you've got the other mental factors, and we'll talk about those in a minute. And that's number 4, which we translate as no impulse. Here, we're going to talk about it as other mental factors or functions as taught by the Abhidharma. And number 5, we have consciousness. And this is our awareness, the thing that is there all the time, but we don't necessarily pay attention to, especially if you've ever slammed your finger into a door. So in the Abhidharma system that was taught by the logic school, there were 46 mental functions or mental factors, okay? And if we consider that in other mental factors, that's 44 of the 46. So where are the other two? And out of all 46 mental functions that are identified in the Abhidharma system, there were two that were spoken by the Buddha to be whole separate heaps by themselves. Feeling and discrimination or distinction. Why? Why did he pull out those two as being the thing that we all, have to work on? Why is that 5 parts of a person? Why would he teach that? Right? Why not just body and mind? The Buddha singled out of all the mental functions, feeling and discrimination to be their own heaps for 3 reasons. They are the root of all conflict in the world. They are the cause of all of this and your future suffering lives. And they help explain the order of the heaps, because the last one, well, Tibetans and Indian Pandits like to be really thorough with the way that they're teaching things. I won't spend too much time on explaining the order of the heaps today, but it's there, and I'm happy to talk afterwards if you'd like. And that is taken directly from the Treasure House of Higher Knowledge, the Abhidharma Kosha that was written by Master Vasubandhu. Okay, and I've also included textual references for the suttas that you can identify these teachings in. So feeling and discrimination, they're central to our experience as a human, right? I'm going to say something kind of controversial here. I don't like pickles. I don't like pickles. Oh, right? But other people do, right? Other people do. Pickles do not bring me pleasure, okay? However, Sicilian lemon raspberry cake does. So I have, just like each of us has, things that we like and things that we dislike, things that make us feel good and things that we don't really like because they don't make us feel good. And we identify this as a heap, right? Because it is important in the way that we function as humans with this experience. Feeling says, I like this or I don't like that, creating attachment to what we like and aversion to what we don't like. And it's this very thing that often leads us to act unskillfully, sometimes even harming others in the process. Discrimination is what says, this is mine and that is yours. Master Vasubandhu taught this normally from a spiritual perspective when you had a lot of different Indian religions or practices coming together to debate, right? And they would say, well, but this is my religion and this is why it's right. And they would say, oh, but this is my religion and this is why it's right. And then he'd also use the example of farmers who say, well, this is my field and that is your field. These are my flock and that is your flock, right? They would use this as a way of creating distinction. But what happens when you start putting feeling on top of distinction? What kind of separation are we either intentionally or unintentionally causing? As the Buddha taught using the analogy of the 3 poisons, the source of all suffering lies in the afflictions of attachment, which is liking with wrong view, aversion, disliking with wrong view, and ignorance, wrong view itself. And the Buddhist teachings urge us to investigate this deeply. Where do impure feelings and discrimination really arise from? Where do they come from? This is the part where you all point at yourself. Oh, thank you. This might be a minute. I forgot to be babysitting the mouse. Oh, my disappeared.
Okay, good. All right. Oh.
No, I don't want to get too far.
We'll see. Just kidding. Hang on just a minute. How do I exit out of multiple displays? Yeah. That's it. Is it back?
No.
I know. Unplug it and plug it back in again. Famous words of every IT person. And if we have to continue without it, we can. Oh.
There you go, it's back.
Okay. Maybe it's the full screen that tells it. All right, here we are.
Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you. Not your fault. This TV is just doesn't have the karma to experience
This talk. So they arise within us. And this is the root of ignorance and the cause of our entrapment in samsara. All suffering between two beings can ultimately be traced to the mental afflictions of self-centered thought and the distinctions that we create. 5 skandhas. You've got all the other mental functions shoved into number 4, and he specifically separated feeling and distinction. And he taught this his whole life. Now, as an inquisitive practitioner, you might be wondering, is this why the Buddha said, no form, no feeling, no thought or impulse or consciousness, and we have to get rid of these heaps? No, that is a misunderstanding. And I think it needs to be clarified. The Buddha didn't teach that these mental functions or these heaps of a person should be eradicated. Instead, he emphasized the need to abandon wrong view. How are we misunderstanding our feelings? How are we misunderstanding our discrimination? How are we misunderstanding our own physical experience? How are we misunderstanding our other mental functions that occur? And I do have a list of those if you're curious of talking about those later. And even our own very own consciousness. Something goes bump in the night. What's the first thought that comes to mind? Is it usually one rooted in fear? And then all of a sudden you just realize it's your cat's playing in the living room? At least that's what it is for me. Last night it was my cat Molly. The water had run out of the water dish, and all of a sudden I heard this crinkling, like somebody was opening a bag, and she was just rubbing her face on this bag of bread that I had made the day before. I'm like, girl, you got to stop, but it's opportunities like that for us to really look. What is our habitual function here? What is it that we're habitually reacting to? And I know there's more to this than what is being presented just now. Again, the Buddha emphasized our need to abandon wrong view in our actions, particularly when it comes to feelings and the way that they influence our discrimination. The challenge isn't to eliminate the mental functions entirely, but to transform them and use them in a skillful and beneficial way. In the Galupa teachings, we understand that while mental feelings or mental functions like feeling and discrimination are inherently neutral, it's our attachment to them and our failure to recognize the emptiness of inherent existence that leads to suffering. When we think things are permanently one way and cannot be changed, that is when we create our suffering. And so the key is, how do we relate to these heaps? And that's why we teach compassion and wisdom. And so you might ask, well, what about all those other people who keep acting with ignorance? What about them? The ones who are causing pain in the world, the ones who are creating discomfort. It's just not fair. Are you still looking at where your feeling and distinctions are arising from? This doesn't mean that things don't function. That doesn't mean that we don't stand up for each other. It doesn't mean that we don't care. It doesn't mean that we don't love. Do you think that a Buddha doesn't feel pain? The example my teacher uses, because remember when Siddhartha Gautama came to become the Buddha, he was a human. One of my teacher likes to use the example, you think a Buddha doesn't feel pain. I've got a dental drill. They still feel pain. They just don't feel it with incorrect view. They see the suffering in the world. It's not that they don't experience suffering, it's that they don't experience it with incorrect or wrong view. They see it with correct view, which can be a hard thing to wrap your mind around. Master Shantideva discusses all of this in chapter 9, the wisdom chapter, and you can find it roughly tucked away in verses 97 to 104. However, reading the wisdom chapter can be a bit of a task because the language is not straightforward and you have to know a lot of the teachings that Master Shantideva was leaning into. And so what it means is that Buddhas do make distinctions, okay? They do have feelings, okay? How can the Dalai Lama says, without desire, how can we live our lives? Without desire, how can you even want to achieve Buddhahood? It's necessary. It's just, are you approaching it in the right way? And distinctions are necessary. Distinctions are necessary. It's being able to say that action causes pain to a being, not just one or the other, to a being, to all beings is what we're looking at from this tradition. Not just one side. Is it causing pain, suffering to somebody? To Buddha means to wake up. And it's really important to understand that there is this distinction because I am going to reap the consequences of my actions, my thought, and my speech, just like you will reap the actions for your thought, action, and speech. I cannot change how you experience that, just as you cannot change how I experience that. It is my mental movements that are going to make that decision to make that change. It is my mental, I forgot to babysit it again. That's all right. I'll get back to it. Buddha never said that we all become one. Okay? It's not like all of a sudden you reach enlightenment and your mind like blends in with everybody else's. That's not how it works. That means that you're no longer going to experience your karma, or you're no longer going to experience your merit. Your merit now becomes somebody else's merit. Have you ever experienced the consequences of somebody else's actions? Yeah, but somehow you were involved, whether you knew it or not. Even just by being born, you have become the receiving end of those actions, right? But it's your mind. It's not your parents' mind. It's not your friend's mind. It's not somebody else's mind. It's yours. And the goal of Buddhism that you shouldn't feel good or bad or something about something? No, absolutely not. For eternity, you will have feeling. But when you are a Buddha, you only experience correct view of feeling. Nasanskara spoke about the 3 marks of existence: impermanence, suffering, and selflessness. And there are 2 ways to perceive these marks. And they are known as conventional reality, which is a reality that we, as those who are not awake, see it, usually covered with some kind of misunderstanding, sometimes very subtle misunderstanding. And then there's ultimate reality. And who do you think experiences ultimate reality? Buddhas, those who have spent the time working with their mind to become awake. Kunga talked about this in his last talk. If we follow the 4 forces of purification, we can transform how we experience our reality. When we pay attention to the things and ways that we act unskillfully, to the things that cause suffering, and we acknowledge those things and go, wow, maybe I could transform that. Let me take some time, realize where that may have created more suffering, whether for my mind or for another's mind. And again, this doesn't mean that you take responsibility for somebody else's karma. It's like when my 5-year-old comes up to me and she goes, "Mom, Lily hit me." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you pulled her hair." Right? Yet she's saying, no, it's her fault. It's recognizing, it's when we lean into these triggers and these habitual tendencies with curiosity and with that unconditional compassion and wisdom, that is how we can recognize emptiness and transform them. For those of you who may not know what emptiness is, what is this? It's not a trick question. For those of you who were yesterday, you had this teaching. It's a pen, right? Why do you know it's a pen? What? Sure, but so could a bottle of ink, right? You could write with it. It's in the shape of a pen. I like that one, right? What is this to a dog? Chew toy. So which is it, a pen or a chew toy? Depends on who's looking at it, right? How are we not doing this with everything else that we experience, these 5 skandhas? How often are we continually painting on top of it something that it is the way it is? And sometimes subtly and unintentionally perpetuating suffering in the world. Verse 5 in the Dhammapada says, hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is the eternal law. There's another pop culture reference that I was excited. It was the whole reason I did the slides to share with you. And it's from this guy that you might know. His name is Master Yoda. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And I chose to begin this talk with the story of Daryl Davis because of his efforts in helping others transform their misperceptions of their world. He opened conversations with those who might seem to forever hate him, positively altering the path of each of those mind streams that he came into contact with. And throughout his activism, over 200 Klansmen left the organization. Imagine how much hate, anger, and pain was dispelled through his compassionate listening, his respectful inquiry, and maintaining correct view. And he was able to do something that no one had ever thought or done or even thought was possible. And all it took was looking underneath hatred and seeing that unconditional love was always available. In 2008, the Tibetan people asked the Dalai Lama, "Can you please boycott the Olympics? Can you please send a message to China?" It was happening in Beijing that year, that the Tibetan people are suffering. And he didn't do it. Do you know why? Do you know why he didn't back that boycott? Because he knew that if he did, that it would affect unconsciously the lives of many other normal, average Chinese people. He knew that if he did that, he would be creating suffering and thus in turn breaking his own vows of protecting life. It's a hard place to be when you're in a spiritual path. It's a really hard place to be. And you must deeply consider what works for you and what doesn't. When we sit up here on Sunday, we are just voices for our understanding of Buddhism, of these teachings. And my intention today, when I started in my head, may these words and my experience serve others in ways that I cannot see. I think everybody really comes from a place of love when they act. And so often we jump to judgment. So often we jump to these two mental heaps. We jump to feeling, we jump to distinction. If you're not with me, you're against me, And what did Yoda say? Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. And hate leads to suffering. Buddha gave us these tools to untangle our misunderstanding of reality so that we can engage with the world from a place of both compassionate action and wisdom based in right view. The Buddha taught that suffering exists in this life. Rather than merely acknowledging or identifying with it, he also taught that there is a way out. Discovering that path is our practice. And it's not easy, but man, is it essential. And it makes my heart sing to know that there are people in the world who want to wake up, who want to see a world without suffering. I mean, look at you guys. You're weird. You are. You're weird. You're doing something that a lot of people aren't doing. And it's a really beautiful thing to see. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making a decision to change how you see the world. Because Lord Buddha knows we need it. And I think each of you knows we need it too. And so as we get into our meditation today, and I know I'm cutting into time, Kunga, if you're watching online, sorry. I will not guide this meditation as I normally do. But I'm going to ask you that as you get into your comfortable seating posture, and we turn down those lights, stretch it out, get comfortable. That once you center your mind, you come to that place of single-pointed focus, that your object is to examine the emptiness of your feelings towards a very irritating object. So I'd like to close with just a couple of thoughts before we get into joys and concerns. We often think about wanting to give a voice to the voiceless. And in your experience, who is the person that you are making voiceless? Who is the person you're not listening to? Who's the person across the aisle who thinks differently that you have not taken the time to sit down and figure out how they think, why they think what they do? Do what Daryl Davis did. Reach across the aisle and compassionately engage in conversations. With wisdom, question yourself. Where are you misunderstanding things? Where are you mishearing, misseeing what they are seeing? Where are you discounting their experience? And then with wisdom and with love, keep having that conversation. Don't let your feelings and your distinction with wrong view get in the way. Because in the end, there is no feeling. There is no distinction. There are no other mental factors. There is no consciousness, as we chant in our Heart Sutra every single Sunday. So in our tradition, we dedicate the goodness of a deed. And we do this at the end of every meditation practice, or anything that we do that is good. If you volunteer, dedicate it, give it away, hope and pray the same way that Shanti Teva does, that the rest of the world will be able to experience it. Dedication is the practice of recognizing the goodness that is cultivated through the positive actions of body, speech, and mind. It's a way of saying, let what I just did benefit others. May it ripple out into the world. May it make a difference in a positive way. And actively dedication, it shows our mind that things are changeable, that things don't have to stay this way. And in this case, it means that love can overcome hate. Please dedicate your efforts today and give it away to that highest path that we're all trying to walk. The path to break the illusion and to wake up. Thank you. All right, we got some joys and concerns to share. Please share with us the good things that you've done recently. And please share with us the concerns that are heavy in your heart so we can help you hold them.
Hi, my name's James. I think today marks the 2-year anniversary, I guess, of me attending this temple. And just really grateful to be here, grateful to get to keep coming back, see new people coming. Yeah, I don't know where else I could find something like this.
Hello. I'm going to lean into my fear today. I don't like public speaking, but I just want to share a joy that I'm grateful for the Sangha and all of you here and just sharing yourselves. My name is Nicole. My partner and I just came back after a 7-year hiatus of coming here 7 years ago. So my other joy is I told Igye Sue when I came back in January that I returned a 7-year delayed library book that belonged to Temple. So she told me the job was finished. So I'm just looking at that as my lesson to other things in life. So I'm grateful for you all.
Good morning, Sangha. So I have a concern to share. My mom's been struggling. She was hospitalized this last week with high blood pressure, like 197 over something. And they're doing all these tests. and they're not sure what it is, but yeah, it was kind of scary. Like that's stroke high, and I'm just starting to form a healthy relationship with my mother after a great deal of suffering and addiction. She's always loved me. It was just me not aware of it, right? Hurt myself, and so things are starting to get good, and it was really scary. And so my concerns, I'd greatly appreciate if you held space in your heart for the love that I have for my mother and the love that she has for me and her well-being. That would mean a great deal for me. And goodness, I sponsor people, so I'm walking people through their own path. And I just recently became president of the Peckham Self-Advocacy Team, and I'm learning about self-advocacy and where I find my needs and how I can voice those needs. And then a joy was the karma comment about the TV. That brought joy to my heart. Thank you.
Just a quick one, an update on our Sangha member, Ben, still in the hospital. He has been through one rocky road. It's amazing, from RSV to pneumonia, and now he's dealing with some gastro issues. But that guy has an amazing, amazing way of looking at this circus that he's involved in. So if you get a chance to go to Caring Bridge, put his name in the search window, Ben Rudy, Rudy, and read his updates, because boy, you'll look at your life and go, dang, I've got it good. He's an amazing guy. Hi, Ben. I know he's watching.
So it's my first time being here, and it's very enjoyable. So that's one of my joy experiences. And interestingly enough, I was invited by a friend. I'm not going to call out, but also I also work with the person who just spoke over here. So that's pretty amazing, because I don't think I had any idea that this person comes here. So just the experience of being here and sharing the energy is the joy that I wanted to kind of speak to. But I guess the suffering and the a place that I would like everybody to sort of keep open is for my teenage daughter, who's currently going through a mental health struggle. And she would really it would really be helpful for her to take in any of that positive energy that anybody has out there for her. So that's all.
Do we have any on? Oh, I was going to say maybe online.
Hi, a quick thing. So a joy. I started this past week doing my own independent chanting of the Heart Sutra, preceded by like 10-minute of silent meditation. I've been doing it like at least once, if not twice a day. It's still the very beginnings of like my own individual practice, but it brings so much, just joy and peace and clarity into my day. Like it's made a huge market difference. And so thank you to the Sangha and this practice that exists here to inspire me to do that.
Sorry. There's a joy on Zoom by Kimberly. She says, I feel so deeply grateful to be here via Zoom to share in this space and to receive the wisdom of the Dharma together. There's something profoundly beautiful about being in community, about listening, reflecting, and knowing we are not alone on this path. Today's talk reminded me that joy isn't something we chase. It's something we cultivate in each moment, in each breath, and in the presence of each other. Thank you all for being part of this journey with me. May we continue to uplift, support, and walk this path with open hearts.
And with that, We'll do a short moment of silence to hold space for all of those joys and concerns. A couple of announcements before we get into our closing gathas. I'll keep this as quick as I can. We have an online meditation group on Wednesdays from 6 to 6:45 p.m. via Zoom. That is with Kunga. And if you need to or would like more information, please either email him or check out the newsletter. We have a Dharma discussion group on Thursdays, 9:30 to 11 a.m. at the temple. Reach out to Reverend Jing Su Ryan Duffield or see the newsletter for more information. Pretty much anything that we offer here at the temple can be found in the newsletter or on our website. We have an Avatam Saka study group, meets on Thursdays bi-weekly from 7 to 9 p.m. and they meet on Discord. The Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple board meeting will take place, I believe, next month, March 16th. From 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the temple community room, which is downstairs, or you can also join via Google Meet online. We encourage Sangha members to attend to kind of hear what's going on. And that's what the board does in terms of supporting this temple, seeing things that, can be done. If you're like, hey, how can I help? Maybe go to that board meeting and talk to some folks. I do believe we also have an upcoming Fundamentals of Buddhism class. I cannot remember the date off the top of my March 8th. Yeah. March 8th here at the temple on a Saturday. And then lastly, we have some Buddhist space recovery meetings on Monday at 6:30 p.m. There's a meditation, 7 p.m. and it's meeting here at the temple. 7 p.m. the meeting starts. Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. at the Alano Club. Fridays, 10:05 a.m. is the meditation, 10:30 a.m. Is the meeting, and it's here at the temple or join via Zoom. And I think we do have one last announcement for Donna.
Good morning, Sangha. My name is Ellen. There are a lot of ways to practice dana, which means generosity in our practice. And one of them is using your time, which you're doing right now. Thank you. There are many ways you can help out with your time. Also, becoming a greeter at the door, helping out with the tech people, making a dana announcement, hint, hint. We have a group here at the temple called Dharma Disciples. It's cool. It sounds like a gang, doesn't it? A gang full of practicing Buddhists going around doing good stuff. But this is the fellow that you need to touch base with if you're interested in that. They have a real cool site that you can put your time in when you're available and so on. Also, Nikki is the person you need to contact if you're interested in, do we need toilet paper at the temple? Do we need tea bags? That kind of stuff. Also, of course, there's the money issue. The temple needs to have lights and heat and cooling and so on. If you are able, when you are able, we have Dharma boxes at the end of each end of the temple. Take cash or check. Each box also has a QR code, scans you right to PayPal. On our website, zengr.org, also there's a donate button. And lastly, for those of you at home who are watching us on YouTube, we have a drop-down menu there as well that will take you directly to the donate button. So thank you. Whatever you can do.
And also, if you want to sign up for monthly donations, you can do that on the website as well. There's more things.
Hi, I'm Max, also known as Sadarupo. The tech team currently consists of myself, Justin, and John. So if we could have maybe
a few more volunteers, that would be great. So that's it.
And it's easy. It's really easy stuff. Like, it's just, if you know how to log on to Zoom and you know how to log on to YouTube, that's about all it takes. And maybe clicking a couple of buttons. Okay. So if you can operate that, you're golden. All you got to do is sit over there and man the deck while somebody talks. Right. I also want to just say thank you to the tech team, to the volunteers, to everybody who comes together to make this temple a reality. Our board works really hard to maintain this space for us. The Dharma Council works hard to offer classes, to put together lists of teachings that we can give for you, as well as formulating groups that can support community causes. So there's a lot of work that goes on in the background aside from just giving a talk on Sunday. And I think it's just good to recognize and talk about that, because there's a lot of people working to make this this happen every Sunday. So thank you all for being a part of this, really, truly. End of service announcements. As you stand up from your cushions and you're getting ready to leave today, if you can kind of square them up nicely. There are other organizations that use this space outside of our Sunday service. So if we can leave it for them nice and tidy and organized, fluff up your cushion, make sure it's in the center of your mat, return your chant books to somebody who's collecting them, and just try to leave the space the same way that you found it. That would be really, really helpful for us. Lastly, let's chant our, what's the last one? Gathas. And together we say, for all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to enter. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. And this side will turn to that side. Our final closing vows. And please also, if you want to stick around and have tea afterwards, join us downstairs for some conversation. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.